Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're making my raspberry sourdough brownies. They are so good. If you love raspberries and you love brownies, you will love this recipe. It's made completely from scratch. Let's go make it. You can find my full written recipe linked down in the description below. Just click that link. It'll take you over to my blog where you can print and save the recipe anytime. I also have tons and tons of recipe tips and serving ideas over there, so definitely go check that out. Now, before we get started, I have to say these brownies are so craveable and they're so easy to make. It's almost dangerous. So at night, if you are craving brownies, this is such an easy recipe to whip up. I'm so excited to share how to make it. So first we are going to grab a medium-sized saucepan or pot, and we're gonna fill it 1/3 of the way full of water. I usually do hot water out of the faucet, and we're gonna create a double broiler to melt the base of our brownies. This is chocolate and butter. I like to heat that up over high heat, and we're gonna bring it to a boil. While that's heating, we are going to grab a heat-safe bowl, so this can be either glass or stainless steel, and then we're gonna add in 4 tablespoons of salted butter. You could also use unsalted. I just like to use the salted in this recipe. And then we're also gonna add in 1/2 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Now, you could use dark chocolate chips or you could use milk chocolate chips, but the semi-sweet is my favorite. It creates the perfect balance. Now we're gonna take this over to the stove. I'll meet you over there. Now once your water starts to simmer like this or come to a boil, we'll put our heat-safe bowl over the top. Now the biggest key is you don't want the bottom to be touching the water at all. So if it is, make sure you pour some out. We're gonna put our heat to a medium-low heat and we're gonna stir this until everything is melted. It'll take just a few minutes. You can also cut your butter up into smaller pieces. It'll make it go a lot faster. And I also want to mention, when you're using a double broiler like this to melt anything, be very careful with the bowl. It can be hot. Make sure as this is melting that you're stirring occasionally to prevent any of this chocolate from scorching and burning. Now once the chocolate and butter are melted, we'll remove this carefully and bring it over to a little trivet or a wire rack to cool on our countertop. Now that our chocolate and butter are melted, we're gonna let this cool down a little bit. That way it doesn't scorch our egg when we add that in. So let that sit on the counter just for a few minutes. While we do that, we're gonna prep a few things. You wanna preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you're gonna grab a round cake pan. So this is just a standard cake-sized pan, about 9-inch cake pan. You can do 8 or 9-inch, and then you're gonna line it with parchment paper. Now this might look crazy or a little weird. Most people use a brownie pan. This is a small batch recipe and it's such a fun thing to get it out and cut it like this. So that's why I use a brownie pan for my brownies. So we're gonna set that aside and then we're gonna grab 1 cup or 1 carton of raspberries. Now I like to use organic, but you can use regular. And then for these, you wanna make sure you rinse them with water and dry them off. That way any dirt or anything that's on them is rinsed. And then we're gonna add them onto a cutting board. One of those small cartons is about 1 cup, so it's perfect. And then we're just gonna grab a knife and we're gonna just roughly chop these into smaller pieces. That way they can go throughout the brownie batter and they're not huge chunks. So I'm just gonna run my knife really quick through them. Now, when I say rough chop, that does not mean a specific size or anything. It just means chopping them into littler pieces. About like this, so little tiny pieces like that. Now we're gonna take all of these and put them in our bowl. We're gonna use 3/4 of them in our brownie batter and then 1/4 of them on top. And then we're just gonna set these to the side. Now that our chocolate mixture has had a chance to slightly cool, again, it's still warm, but we just needed to make sure it was not as hot as when it was on the pan. So now we're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients. We'll start with 1/4 cup of pure granulated cane sugar. This is just a more wholesome option to refined sugar. And then we're gonna add in 1 egg. Now, as we add this in, you wanna make sure you stir right away. That way it's not going to have any chance to curdle. So we'll add that right in, and then we're gonna use a whisk to just mix this around. Once your egg is completely mixed in there, then we can add the rest of our ingredients. Next, we'll add in 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Next, we'll add in 1/4 cup of sourdough discard. Now, my discard is pretty thick, so depending on your starter's hydration, it'll be thicker or thinner, but it should be just fine. Next, we'll add in 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder for baking, as well as 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and finally 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. That adds such a good flavor with the chocolate. And then we're gonna just take our whisk and we're gonna stir this to combine. You just wanna do it until everything is combined. You don't wanna overmix your brownie batter. This looks so good. Now it will take just a few seconds to get all of that sourdough discard mixed into here, especially if you have a thick starter like mine. Once you've got everything combined and your batter looks like this, we are ready to move on to the next step. So we're gonna take our whisk out. Now at this point you can continue the recipe like I am and make the quick brownies, or if you would like to save this batter for later, or if you would like to have more fermentation benefits, you can put an airtight lid on this or saran wrap and stick it in your refrigerator for about 24 hours. You can do 12 to 24 and you'll get more fermentation benefits in here. You obviously have some in here already because of the starter, but that just gives it more. Again, that is a completely optional step. I'm gonna continue this recipe so we can have them here after lunch. So now we're gonna add in our raspberries. So you're gonna add in 3/4 of them. We're gonna leave 1/4 of our chopped raspberries for the top. And then lastly, we're gonna add in 1/4 of a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. This is completely optional. You can leave these extra chocolate chips out. I love it, it makes them more fudgy, so I'm gonna add them on in. And then we're just gonna grab a spoon and we're gonna stir this to combine. As you can see here, there's so many goodies in there and it smells so good. So we're just gonna stir this to have everything evenly incorporated. Once you have everything evenly incorporated, it should look just like this. Then we're gonna grab that pan we prepared earlier and we're just going to pour this right in here. It smells so chocolatey. You can smell the raspberries. Raspberries are one of my favorite fruits. I just love them so much. So when they're mixed with chocolate, of course, I can eat the whole batch. Now, once your batter's poured in there, you're gonna want to use a spoon and push it to the sides. Now, because we have a round pan and we are using parchment paper like this, I'm not doing the fancy cutout for the bottom or anything. The sides will be a little jagged in areas, which is totally fine. So just push it as good as you can to the ends of the pan. You wanna make sure it's completely even through here so it bakes evenly. When you're done with that, we'll grab the rest of our raspberries and then we're just gonna add those to the top to make it look pretty. So I like to sprinkle it all around. Now once you've added the extra raspberries on top to make it look really beautiful and extra delicious, we're gonna pop it in our 350-degree preheated oven. You'll want to use a toothpick or a skewer of some sort. Put it in the center of your brownies. If it comes out clean, it's ready to go. Just make sure you're not hitting a chocolate chip. So I'm gonna go pop this in the oven for 35 minutes. Now when your brownies are done baking, you'll want to place them on a wire cooling rack in the pan for about 10 minutes. After that, you can easily remove the brownies with the parchment paper and cut them into slices. I like to cut them like a pizza, like one of those little square pizzas. There's a pizza place that I love back in my hometown that cuts their pizza into squares. So that's what I do for my brownies. It's just like little snackables. They're so delicious. Now you can serve these brownies for a lot of occasions. If you have guests coming over, it's a great treat. If it's during berry season and whenever the raspberries are ripe, that is a wonderful treat to make. These are also really awesome to serve in honor of St. Valentine on St. Valentine's Day on February 14th. The little pops of red show love and you can share them with your loved ones and just spreading love throughout your home and your community within your friends and family. It's just a special thing to do. So that is another option you can do for serving these. I love having them with a mint tea. There's just something about the mint tea cutting through that chocolate. It's so good. My husband loves having either regular milk or chocolate milk with this recipe. We cannot get enough. Let's give it a quick try. They're so chocolatey. The raspberries add such a freshness to these brownies. I could eat the whole thing. Again, for storage tips and more serving ideas, you can head over to my blog where you can print and save the full written recipe anytime. The link is down in the description below. I hope these recipes find a special place on your table either for St. Valentine's Day or just a fun treat throughout the year. Until next time, go serve God by loving your family one recipe at a time.